Hey sis, welcome to the Sisterhood, Soul, and Strategy podcast, a space for women building businesses that feel as good as they look. I'm Steph, a small town girl from Wisconsin with big dreams to positively impact the world. This podcast is from the heart, where we share real conversations about building intentional businesses that thrive in every season. And the best part, we talk both soul and strategy, and we wrap it all up in sisterhood. Because let's be real, business is more fun in community. So no matter your age or stage of small business ownership, you stumbled upon this podcast for a reason. Now, let's get to the good stuff. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited about this conversation with our guest today. It has been a long time coming, and I've been telling her that when I relaunch my podcast, she's going to be one of the guests. This is someone who we have grown a friendship over the last couple of years. We originally met in line at Powerhouse Women, realized we're both from the Midwest, we're both Husky owners, and we just have so much in common. And believe it or not, we have the same name. So please welcome to the podcast, my dear friend, Stefanie Dingbaum.
Stephanie, thank you so much for having me. I feel so honored. Seriously, so honored.
Well, I'm excited about this conversation because we just are in alignment with so many things.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be fun to see where this goes. But first and foremost, I am just so inspired by you and your just life experiences that could have really kept you down, and you did not let them. You allowed them to be a catalyst for your next evolution and your inspiration to keep going. So take us to one of your rock bottom moments that was really a huge pivot for you.
Yeah. So, the biggest one that just really shook my world at the core was when I had a near-death experience. It was 2016, and at that time I was on our local water ski team that performs around here, and it was my second year on the team. I'm a water girly. I love anything to do with water, being on the coast, you name it. And so I had just really fallen in love with being on this team. I was asked to do one of the opening water acts where it would literally kick off the show. And it's, for anyone that's familiar with water skiing, it's called the Barefoot Pyramid. And so ultimately what it is there's two water skiers on the bottom of the pyramid, and they start off on skis, and then I climb up onto, or the person climbs up onto their shoulders, and the boat has to get up to, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe 35 miles an hour. And then they can hop out of their skis with me on their shoulders, and they're barefoot skiing on the water with somebody on their shoulders. So we were bending, going around the bend, literally just about to be in front of the crowd. One of the guys' footing, he lost his footing on the water and sent him down. And naturally, with me being on top, it sent me down. And just the impact of how I hit the water, neck snapped back upon impact of hitting the water. And I don't remember anything beyond that, but from what I've been able to piece together from what other people have told me, and really just other people's stories, I was pretty much floating lifeless on the water. My head was down, and there was no movement, and they thought I was dead. And so they had to send a rescue boat to pick me up, and then they had to call in an ambulance. And by the time I got to the hospital, they were worried about paralysis. I did come to. But they were worried about paralysis. And so as soon as we got to the hospital, they said they were going to need to airlift me to our local, our big hospital, being the university here in Iowa, the University of Iowa Hospital and Clinic. And so they airlifted me there because they said if they didn't, I would possibly end up paralyzed or worse, which would be death. And once they got me to Iowa City, they did a bunch of CT scans, a bunch of MRIs, all the things. I had fractured my C2 vertebrae, which is the vertebrae directly under the brainstem. And ultimately, I was really lucky. I was up and very slowly walking within 24 hours after that. So I was not paralyzed. Thank goodness. But it was one of the scariest situations of my life. At that time, I was a social worker for a local nonprofit, and I was just wearing myself thin. I was completely burnt out, um, not really enjoying what I was doing and just truly wanting more. And then this accident happened, and it was like immediately caused me to, I mean, life went to a screeching halt, and it caused me to do some really in-depth reflecting and processing of like, what do I want to do with my life? I can't keep going at the pace I was going. This whole accident, I could no longer live on my own. My apartment was an upstairs apartment that I lived by myself in, and so I had to get moved out of there because I needed to be in a handicap accessible place. So from that, released from the hospital literally 23 hours after being admitted. And like I said, I was walking, but very slowly, and couldn't walk by myself, couldn't really do anything by myself, couldn't go to the bathroom by myself, had to like kind of retrain myself to even like get back into walking. Um, and nothing. I mean, I had to rely on somebody 24 hours a day from that point forward. And I was in a neck brace for 9 months. My neck did eventually heal on its own, which was just a complete miracle. I mean, they weren't expecting that. They thought for sure I was gonna need surgery, but it healed on its own, and just through the whole journey, there was miracles that, like, continued to show me that there is divine intervention in our life, that there's just no rhyme or reason to how things happened the way they did, the timing of everything, the people that just happened to be where they needed to be on that day. It was the whole thing, and then all the little things that added together was just a complete miracle. Yeah.
Wow. Like, what an incredible story. So, you shared this pieces of this story on social. We did a speaker contest for Summit, the Trailblazer Talk, and you shared some of this story, which I didn't know. And I was just like, this is incredible. And it just goes to show, like, we only see certain sides of people, right? But like when we dig deeper into our stories and those really hard moments, we just learn so much about people. And so, thank you for sharing that, first of all. And also, just like what happened after that. So, how many years ago was this, Steph?
So this was in 2016, so it's now been 10 years since I broke my neck.
10 years. And in that time, you have been able to make a total shift into a private practice, building that up. You're doing all kinds of cool things now, into different therapies. So, take us through that journey kind of afterwards and your pivot into this realization that, like, I am meant for more than just this job that is not fulfilling me. What were some of the steps that you took to get to that next level version of you, and from the outside as well as like the inner work, because we know that a lot of it is that identity piece.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like I said, this whole thing caused me to just come to a screeching halt and realize like I can't keep functioning the way I was, and it wasn't healthy to continue to work myself dry, and it wasn't doing my body or my mind any good. I was forced to take, I mean, I only had so much time I could take off, but since I was able to finally walk within that first 2 weeks, like on my own, I did go back to work 3 weeks later, and I told myself, I'm not gonna work the way I did before. I'm not gonna work myself dry. And for what? Like, we're all dispensable, right? Like, we can all be replaced tomorrow when you work these typical, like, corporate jobs or 9 to 5 jobs. Like, you can be replaced tomorrow. I don't care how important you think you are. We're all dispensable. And so I went back to work, but with a completely different mindset and just a completely different outlook on life, that, like, wow, I was given this second chance. I came so close to dying that, like, God gave me a second chance for a reason. I need to not, like, take this lightly. And so upon going back to work, I also threw myself heavily into public speaking, where I knew, like, God let me see and witness these miracles for a reason. I need to witness these miracles now to other people. So I started going around to all of our local churches, sharing my story, really to
Mm.
any group I could get in front of. I wanted to share like the power of miracles and how they're big and little, but they're happening every day in our lives if we just allow ourselves to be open to that. And so that really taught me to like, okay, you've got stories to share. It's time to share them. So I really got heavy into that. And going back to work was great and all, but I then decided I wanted to go back to grad school and that I didn't want to, for lack of a better word, be stuck in this 9 to 5 job that wasn't ultimately fulfilling anymore. And so I went back to grad school and I knew I eventually wanted to get into school social work. That was my dream all along. Got into school social work, loved what I was doing. And when time passes after such an earth-shattering situation, eventually you go back to like status quo. Like life
Mm.
changes afterwards, but after enough time passes, you forget the extreme of it all and you forget
Mm.
the lessons. I mean, you still carry them, but they're not as prevalent on the forefront of your mind. And so even with that new job after grad school, when I eventually was a school social worker, I found myself going right back into
Patterns.
burnout. Yeah, same pattern. I hadn't truly healed it. And it had been, 5+ years since I broke my neck. So it was like, I'm fine. Everything's fine.
Mhm.
And so when I found myself back in that state of burnout, I was like, what am I doing wrong? This is not working for me anymore. And I just, I eventually I got my license to practice therapy. And from that point forward, I just decided like I'm meant to do so much more than this. I don't want to be living and working from a state of burnout anymore. And so my husband was extremely supportive. I ran with the idea of starting my private practice and in the summer of 2023. So I officially resigned in the spring of 2023. In the summer of 2023, I officially opened my private practice. And I will say a lot of the like behind the scenes work that I was doing, um, it was the spring of 2023 also that I had to get my thyroid taken out, which I don't know if you can see, but I still have a scar from that. But
Mm.
like I did a shamanic healing session that summer. So my thyroid was taken out in May. I did a shamanic healing session that July. So literally the same month I officially opened my private practice. And this healer told me that we did a past life regression and what ultimately came out of that entire session was like, look at this pattern of major medical issues that have come up in your life. One, breaking your neck. Two, getting your thyroid removed. What part of your body is being impacted? And it was obviously like my throat chakra. And
Yep.
she's like, there's no coincidence that your two major medical issues have had to do with your throat. You are being told by your spirit guides that you need to start speaking your truth and unless you want another like earth-shattering situation to like open your eyes to this, you need to act on this now. And I took that to heart. And that was then when I kicked off my podcast as well and was like, okay, I got shit to say and I'm gonna start saying it and you're gonna hear me. You're gonna hear my voice. And I'm not holding back anymore. And it's just been the best thing for me. Like learning to speak my truth, learning to own my confidence. Um, yeah, that's kinda like the full circle healing journey.
I love it. Thank you for sharing this stuff. And I think the whole time you were sharing this story, my brain went to immediately, even with the water skiing accident with your neck injury, was like, ooh, what's the spiritual meaning of, that part of your body? Because that's where my brain goes all the time, especially when we have a repeating pattern. Our body will always show us what we're not willing to acknowledge or make changes or decisions or speak to inside, right?
Yeah,
Whatever's happening inside will come out in some sort of physical ailment or injury. I
yeah,
firmly believe that.
I do too.
Thank you for sharing that because I
Yeah,
was thinking that the whole time, and then you said the, surgery that you had, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is definitely related to the throat chakra and definitely, yeah, that part of the body."
yeah, I mean, literally, even when we did the shamanic healing session, we did this past life regression. The past life that I was immediately taken to was I don't know what time era or whatever, but what visually I was being shown was I was attempting suicide and I was attempting to hang myself because I had been raped and I got pregnant from the rape and I was so ashamed and I was ultimately getting like shamed by society, family, friends, you name it, that I had decided to end my life by hanging myself by my neck. So this is not just a pattern in this current life, but this is a pattern I carried in from a previous lifetime, which was just earth shattering, like mind blowing information that came through in that session. So wild.
Oh my gosh, Steph. Well, this is another crazy coincidence because I have suffered with migraines my entire life. And through my past life regression that I did, it was because, yeah, my previous life, I fell and hit my head. Like that's how I died. And my previous life was falling off a piece of equipment, like kind of like working myself to death, falling off a piece of equipment, hitting my head. So it's like so incredible when you learn these patterns and injuries and lessons that carry over lifetime to lifetime. If you believe that's a thing, I do.
Yes, I do too.
I know that our soul chooses to be in this life that we are now because we have lessons to learn and patterns to be healed. And so, wow, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
And this just goes deeper into the work that you're doing now, right? So let's talk to like you went back, you got your master's, you started doing therapy in school and then decided I'm gonna go off on my own. I'm gonna have my own private practice and starting with just more traditional therapy, but I know which direction you're headed to now is adding in more of these deeper subconscious healing modalities like hypnotherapy. So talk to a little bit like what is the difference between regular like talk therapy and some of these other modalities that you are offering to your clients?
Yeah. So from the time I opened my private practice in 2023, I was strictly just practicing talk therapy, which there is a lot of power behind talk therapy. I'm not dismissing that by any means. Um, but you can only get so far to the root of something. And I had just had this come to Jesus moment at the end of 2025 where I decided I'm going to come out of the spiritual closet completely with my private practice. I am providing way more than just talk therapy. I'm a channeler, I'm intuitive. I truly dig into the root. So I initially just came out as of January 2026 as an intuitive therapist and then had this opportunity to sign up for certification in hypnotherapy, and this has been on my vision board for the past 3 years now. So I'm like, this is a no-brainer. Like, of course I'm going to sign up for this. Now is the time. And I did it 2 weekends ago, and it's honestly been the best thing. I started promoting it the day after I got home from the, training, and it's taking off like gangbusters. It's just been so amazing. So many signs that this was an aligned decision for me, and ultimately, with hypnotherapy, it allows me to truly get to the root cause of people's issues because, as you know, a lot of our issues are deeply embedded into our subconscious, and 95% of our day to day actions, interactions come from our subconscious. So, the great thing about hypnotherapy is we can completely bypass the ego, bypass the conscious, and go directly into where all of these issues, where all of these beliefs and patterns are stored in the subconscious.
Oh, so good. And I'm finding even doing some of this deeper subconscious somatic work myself, like there are things that, and I know you and I have had conversations about this even more recently, right? Where it's like there's things that were like, I thought I moved on from that, like
Yeah.
trauma or trigger in my life. And now it's resurfacing again. Like, what is going on? And
Yeah.
at first, it almost feels like we're taking steps backwards. Like, why
Right.
am I feeling triggered by this? But on a deeper level, it's like, oh no, there's actually just some deeper healing that needs to happen. And it probably is on more of a somatic, like body
Yeah.
or subconscious level that we can't even try to rationalize it because our brain needs to leave the picture, right? Like we
Yeah.
actually have to either get into our body, which is like more the somatic side of things, or the subconscious that is holding these patterns and these stories that don't serve us. And I know you feel this too, but it's like we almost feel that trigger come back up and that trauma resurface right as we're on the cusp of our next level. Can you
I
speak to this?
Yeah, I completely agree. This is something that I've just been going through even just in the last, I don't know, year since, I mean, becoming a mom like cracks you open in ways that you're not always prepared for. And that 100% happened to me. It was like I already felt I was on such a spiritual journey, and then we adopted our son and I became a mom. It like cracked me open even more
Yeah.
spiritually. And I'm sure you experienced
Totally.
that.
Like,
Yeah.
things that I thought I was over almost
Yeah.
resurface in a whole new way,
Yeah.
and a new identity as a mom. Hey, I just needed a quick water break from the podcast, and I want to tell you about what's in my water. It is my new current favorite daily supplement, and I drink it. It's called Glossy, and it is not just a great supplement for hydration and gut health, but it is truly changing my skin in the best way. Glossy is skincare that you drink because it impacts your largest organ and your insides. My favorite flavors are the strawberry hibiscus and the watermelon. I add it to my water every single day. So if you are looking for something that is more than just a hydration stick, Glossy is it. And you can get 40% off your first order with my code getglossy.com/Steph Ross. And you can find that link in the show notes. Cheers. Hey, it's me interrupting the podcast because you need to know about one of my favorite organic skincare brands. And bonus, it is a small business, and that is Simple in Nature. I am obsessed. I started using the Simple in Nature organic body oil a couple years ago in the winter when my skin was so disgustingly scaly dry. And I had tried every lotion that I could think of. And I met Sabria and she was like, you need to try the body oil. And I'm obsessed. I barely skip a day. It is amazing. My personal favorite scents are Harmony or her current newest scent, which is Serene. It is lavender, vanilla, eucalyptus, and thyme. And honestly, I use this every single day along with my lip oil. And I use my sugar scrub a couple times a week to keep my skin hydrated, nourished, and healthy, not just in the winter, but all year long. If you want to try out your first order, head over to simpleinnature.com with the link in the show notes to get 20% off using my code STEPH20.
Yeah, and that's another big piece of it is the identity work. That's another big piece of what I can help people on in hypnotherapy is like if you're carrying any unhealthy identities, like I identify as an anxious person or as a depressed person or as a people pleaser or as a fill in the blank, whatever you identify as, we can rewrite those identities so that, especially if it's not serving you well anymore, let's rewrite those so that they don't have to continue to be such a negative pattern in your life. But for me specifically, um, I don't know where I was going with this, but ultimately it's like becoming a mom had changed my identity in such a big way, spiritually and otherwise. And I was already doing, prior to becoming a mom, I was already doing identity work I was working with a coach on truly embodying my CEO self. And I was noticing shifts from that. And then I became a mom. So then it was like I was embodying my CEO self, and now I'm embodying being a mom. And I'm assuming you can relate to this because I'm assuming your birth was an extremely spiritual experience for you. But how we learned we were becoming parents from the moment we learned we were chosen to the moment we got our son, the whole
Will
story,
you share that story?
yeah, we were in LA for a business retreat for me to meet my business coach. This was in February of 2025, and our plane landed. And as soon as, you take your phone off airplane mode, and as soon as I took my phone off airplane mode, like messages are flooding through. Well, one of those messages was from the adoption specialist saying that a birth mother had chosen our profile and wanted to meet us ASAP. Well, you just never know how far along these birth moms are. I mean, it could be anywhere from, 3 months to doing 2 weeks, you just never know. And so at the time I was excited, don't get me wrong, but I was like, we have time, right? So we were a day late in getting into LA because of Midwest uh snowstorms. And so we were just focused on like, we have to get from LAX to Laguna Beach and we don't have a lot of time. So my husband was like, yeah, this is exciting and all, but I have to drive in LA traffic for an hour. So like, put it out of mind for right now, which I was like, how? There's no way. So I was kind of processing that on my own because he just needed to focus on driving. And so my mind was going, a million miles a minute. And by the time we got back to the hotel and we actually had some time to like get in touch with the adoption specialist, she had informed us that this birth mother was pretty certain she wanted to go with us. She wanted to set up an interview with us for the following week, and she was due in a month. And so we were like, okay, as soon as we get back from LA, like we need to meet her and we need to get the ball rolling. And she ended up having him, she was due from the time we learned she was due 6 weeks from there, but she had him 3 weeks early. So
Mm, oh
from
my
the time we
goodness.
got back from LA, 3 weeks later, we became parents, and the rest is history. But the whole experience was just such a deeply. I mean, there was signs and synchronicities that whole trip in
Mhm.
LA that was like I knew without a doubt, and we knew it was a boy. We were told that she was expecting a boy. And from that point forward, I knew without a doubt that he was ours, that he had chosen us prior to conception.
Mhm.
I felt that our souls had connected. I had connected with Spirit Baby in the weeks leading up to this trip. I was doing a lot of that work on my own. And yeah, I just knew. I knew he chose us, and they tell you throughout the whole process, like, he's not officially yours until he's 6 weeks old. Birth
Sure.
parents can always, like, change their mind, and you have to give the baby back, and I just knew that wasn't gonna happen. I knew he had chosen us, and I knew he was ours to keep, and all respect to the birth mom and the birth parents, I just felt like, they were a vessel to bring him to us.
Mhm. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
It's just such a beautiful story and I love hearing it. And I just think it goes to show like how much you have truly manifested in your life.
yeah.
And with that manifesting, what is the balance of like knowing what you want and surrendering the outcome?
I think the balance is really tapping into that unwavering faith. I mean, you can manifest anything you want, but if you're missing the unwavering faith, you're just wishing. I mean, you're not truly manifesting things. And what helped to manifest our son was I had started 2025 deciding that I'm not I'm not going to focus on this anymore. I'm not going to focus on having a baby anymore. It's still a deep desire that I carry, and my soul couldn't completely detach from that desire, but I just didn't want to focus on it anymore.
Yeah.
So I poured into like my baby, then became my business. It's why I
Mhm.
went to this retreat out in LA. I just poured into starting and growing my business. And once I made that my primary focus, that's when the baby came through for us. That's when we got that call. And so it's learning to continue to carry that unwavering faith while still holding that desire. But just when you have the faith, then you can stop suffocating that desire so much.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, so good. It is truly that like trust and surrender. Trust the process, trust the timing,
yeah.
that you are, you can only do so much. Like, I think it's true. Like, I find for myself when I remember that I'm not doing this alone, like, there's a power much greater than me.
Yes.
Like, for me to
Yeah.
think that I can control this and create this on my own is just kind of laughable.
I agree. Yeah.
But we do that. We constantly do that in our life and our business and how we show up, just trying to control so much of everything in our life. And it also makes for a lot more stress and overwhelm because then we're trying to do it all ourselves, which we're
Mhm.
not.
Right.
We have this unwavering power and faith, like you said. And I just think your story is such a testament to that. Would you share how the work that you're doing in your business and with your clients, as well as even some of these, manifesting things or tools that you use for yourself, how does that help in entrepreneurship?
Yeah, I mean, my whole goal since day one of starting both my private practice and my coaching business, which are two separate entities, my whole goal was one, I'm not going to end up in burnout again because if I'm putting all this time, money, energy, and effort into building a business over my dead body, will I end up in that state of burnout ever again? Like that, I have control over that. We have control over that. So I refused to let that happen again. So what's the opposite of burnout? In my opinion, it's nervous system regulation. It's learning to, like you mentioned, like somatic movement earlier, it's learning to be really in tune with your body. It's learning to practice grounding yourself mentally, physically, spiritually, and being able to incorporate that into your business, whatever that needs to look like for you, I think is really important. For me, what it looked like is I refuse to see more than 5 therapy clients a day because I could easily fit in 6, and 6 would bring in way more money. However, I need to be a present mom at the end of the day. I need to be a present spouse at the end of the day, and that's you're not gonna get my best self if I squeeze 6 people in a day. And so 4 or 5 is kind of my magic number. It allows me to be more present during my sessions, less rushed
Mhm.
throughout the day. Um, I find that having a little bit more downtime between sessions is a gift from God for me, and I'm a better therapist for my clients because of that. And so that nervous system regulation is huge for me. I also have been really intentional about I want everything that I do for the business has to feel soul aligned. And if it's a hell no, then it's not soul aligned for me. And
Mhm.
you know when something is soul aligned because it just like it hits you differently. It excites you, it lights a fire under your ass. You get like these continuous nudges. Like that's how hypnotherapy was for me. It's like I kept getting these continuous nudges about
Mhm.
like you have to incorporate this. And then the next one has been sound healing. Like those nudges keep coming in for me. Like you have to incorporate this at some point into your business. So that'll be the next certification I think I'll add.
Love it.
But it's like listening to those nudges, responding to those nudges, because that's more than likely soul aligned for you. And so anything that I do for the business, it has to feel aligned. It has to feel right. And things manifest more quickly. It's easier to carry the unwavering faith when it feels soul aligned. It's
Yes.
it's just trusting your intuition. And that's another piece of it too, is like if you're gonna build a business, if you're gonna grow or scale a business, really learn to like hone in on your intuition, strengthen your intuition, be able to trust your intuition. That to me has been huge too, because every decision I make, I tap in like, okay, intuitively, is this meant for me? Is this what I'm meant to be doing next? And you'll know it's either a fuck yes or a hell no. Like it's one or the other. And you know, because
Mhm.
somatically your body will tell you, you know?
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love this. And this has been coming up for me so much lately too. Even in my Reiki session I had recently, it was like, she was like, you need to check in with your sacral on every decision you make because you are very in tune, but like you need to listen, right? Like you need to actually
Right.
use that as a guiding voice in your decisions. It should be the loudest voice in your decisions. So I love that. And you're really speaking to a lot of the themes that I've been talking about on the podcast, what we're going to see and experience and talk more about at Sister Circle Summit. And it is pulling in these pieces of regulation because I feel the same way leaving my first business. If I run myself into the ground building these other businesses I am now, what was the point of closing the doors on my studio? Like,
Yeah.
there's really no point if I'm just going to operate from the same patterns, the same dysregulation, the same fight or flight.
Yeah.
Like, there's no point in doing that.
Right.
So building in a different way and healing those patterns that do not serve us
Yeah.
is
Yeah. I
a part of
completely.
the shift and the mindset, the work, how we approach things. So you are going to be delivering a trailblazer talk at Sister Circle Summit. And what is what is the inspiration or the aha that you're going to be leaving us with?
Oh, so I would say just the biggest piece is I have a room full of business owners that I'm going to be speaking to, which is my ideal audience. And the biggest thing I feel I can leave people with that I have seen since day one of starting my business that I've seen from other entrepreneurs is like, if you are not learning to incorporate that nervous system regulation, if you are not able to heal some of these wounds, some of these patterns that you are carrying, you are ultimately shooting yourself in the foot. Therefore, you're hurting your business in the long run. You have to be willing to come face to face with your wounds, come face to face with these potentially unhealthy patterns, and learn to heal these. Because if you don't, I'm not saying it will immediately hurt your business, but at some point it likely will. I'm sure you can see that when now that you are so far beyond the closing of your studio, I'm sure you can look back and see, like, I was doing this wrong, or I hadn't faced this part of
Yeah.
myself, or this shadow was getting in the way, whatever that
Mhm.
shadow version was. So, like, I just feel so strongly that if you don't embark on your own healing journey and you don't heal these things and also incorporate nervous system regulation into the building and scaling of your business, you are going to hurt yourself in the end, whether it means you hit burnout or whether it means you carry this lack mindset into scaling of your business, whatever it looks like. Your business is going to suffer in the long run. And if you're going to put all this time, money, energy, and effort into
Mhm.
building something beautiful, I would hope you wouldn't want to see that happen. So do
Yeah.
the work, do the inner work, face those parts of yourself, give yourself permission to scale back if you need to incorporate regulation if you need to, whatever that looks like for you.
I love it. It's gonna fit so well into the overarching themes of the day, and I'm just so excited for you to take the stage and pour into our amazing attendees at Sister Circle Summit. And my final question to you is just, we both live in small towns. You're over in Iowa, I'm in Wisconsin, and but yet you are a big dreamer. That's like where we met was at an event where we could step into this identity of our next level. And I love that it doesn't matter that you live surrounded by cornfields.
No.
Like you have big dreams and you're going to chase them and like that doesn't matter. So from small town girl to small town girl, what does it mean for you to chase your big dreams living in a small town?
Oh, that is such a loaded question, but I love that question because I'm just gonna like be full on Delulu here, okay? Because I just love that energy.
Always.
What it means for me to build that dream life is I want to build a business that just gives me the freedom, whether the freedom is at some point we will own a vacation home, ideally in either ideally Sedona. I just love the idea of being amongst palm trees. I mean, I'm a beach girl at heart, but I just love the idea of being in Arizona. Something about Sedona just is really calling me. But in general, I want to build a life that allows for that freedom to pack my family up tomorrow and take off on Allegiant to Sedona for a week if I want, the
Yeah.
freedom to still work for my business while in a different state
Yeah.
potentially. But then also the idea of me building and scaling my business, meaning that my husband can go after something that actually lights him up inside as well. I just love the idea. Freedom is just what has come up for me from day
Mhm.
one. I wanted that money freedom, I wanted that time and schedule freedom, and I'm still going after that, but now it's like this freedom doesn't just benefit me, it benefits my husband, it benefits my kid.
Yes.
I love being a Midwest girl at heart, like, that's where I'm meant to reside, but I love the idea of being able to take off to Florida whenever I want with my family, take off to Sedona whenever I want with my family. Um, just building a business that grows in regards to coaching clients that I see, in regards to therapy, hypnotherapy clients that I see. At some point, I hope to offer biannual retreats
Mm,
for, both here in the Midwest as well as in Sedona, but for
yeah.
just, like, women who are wanting to show up as their next level selves and truly, like, do deep level healing in this intimate setting together. That's something that's been put on my heart for a while now too. And so, yeah, I just wanna continue to scale my business as much as possible, My team has grown from day one. I now have a podcast manager, a VA, a social media manager. At some point this year, I'm going to be adding a med prescriber, a holistic med prescriber, which sounds crazy, but she's a prescriber that focuses on lifestyle changes first and foremost, meds lastly. And
Oh,
so we'll be adding her to the private practice. So just all of these things will help to scale the business, to grow my income, which in the long run means freedom for me, freedom for time with my family, freedom for my spouse. That's what the big dream looks like. Like that's what I'm chasing
yes.
after. And it allows us to still live in the Midwest, but have the freedom to go wherever we want, whenever we want.
Mm. I resonate with that so deeply,
You do.
so
Yeah.
much. Love that. And I've just loved this conversation, and the
Same.
trail that you're blazing is just so inspiring to me and so many others. So, Steph, where can we continue to connect with you
Sure.
and listen to your podcast?
Yeah, so the podcast is Next Level You Podcast, and that's on all major podcast platforms. And then the best way to connect with me would be through DMs on Instagram. I try to keep up with those as much as possible. You can also reach out to me on my website. It's just stephaniedingbaum.com. Um, so I encourage you to check that out. And if you are interested in hypnotherapy sessions, I offer them both in person and virtually. You can do them if you're from the Eastern Iowa area. You can do them in person at my office, but I also offer them virtually for anybody worldwide as well. So,
I was going to ask that. So perfect. I love it. Well, thank you again for being here and sharing your story,
yeah.
Stephanie.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate you.
Hey, sis, if this episode spoke to you, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss our weekly conversations that drop every Monday. And would you share this with a fellow sister that needs to hear this message too? If you're craving sisterhood, soul, and strategy in action, I'd love for you to step inside our Sister Circle community, where we gather, grow, and build intentional businesses together in real life and real time. I promise, business is more fun in sisterhood. Until next time, keep leading with soul, honoring your season, and don't forget, I'm always cheering for you.